we disregard every safety standard, every recommendation, and every warning sign, it's only a matter of time until something goes wrong. And it's only a matter of time until someone gets hurt. For Neptune underwater expeditions, their time was July 7th, 2011. And the person that got hurt was Leanne. Members of the jury, there's one person in this courtroom who understands more than anyone how much harm a reckless company can do. This is Andy Allen. She knows firsthand what it's like to be the victim of a company who disregards safety standard after safety standard, putting their clients' lives at risk. And she knows firsthand what it's like to lose a husband because a company just didn't care. Now, in April of 2011, Andy and her husband Lee were getting ready to celebrate their 5th anniversary. And Lee wanted to do something special for Andy. That's when he first heard about Neptune's Hepburn expedition, a scuba diving trip that took divers to a shipwreck in the South Atlantic. Now, you're going to learn today that even though the Allens were novice divers, Neptune allowed them to participate in that expedition, which was only safe for experienced divers. You're going to learn that once on that trip, Lee struggled frequently, even during the easiest dives, moving slowly and using nearly 2 times more oxygen than any of the other divers. And you're going to learn that Neptune's employees watched as Lee struggled, determined that it wouldn't be safe for him to participate in the expedition's more challenging dives. But then let him dive anyway. Now, all that's important because today, as the plaintiff, we've alleged and must prove by a preponderance of the evidence that Neptune acted recklessly in the case of Lee Allen. Simply put, we must prove it's more likely than not that they recklessly caused his death. Only 2 elements of that charge of recklessness are in contention today. First, that Neptune breached its duty of care to Lee Allen. And second, that breach was the direct and proximate cause of his death. Now, we will meet this burden. And to help you see why, we're going to ask you to consider 2 questions as you listen to the evidence today. First, did Neptune violate diving industry safety standards during the Hepburn expedition? And second, were those violations what caused Lee's death? So let's talk about that first question. Did they violate diving industry safety standards that put their divers' lives at risk? Now, today you're going to hear from Frankie Fernandez, an expert diver, the type of diver that should have been on that Hepburn expedition. She's going to tell you that on every other dive she'd ever done with a dive company, they'd implemented what's called the buddy system, pairing divers together, making sure no one, under any circumstance, ever swam alone. She's going to tell you that on July 7th, Neptune allowed Lee Allen to dive without his usual dive buddy, that she watched as a Neptune employee okayed Lee Allen to swim ahead completely alone. Then you're going to hear from Bailey Johnson, an expert in diving industry safety standards. And he's going to tell you that that decision to allow Lee Allen to dive solo at a depth so dangerous for such an inexperienced diver is clearly a violation of industry standards. And last, you're going to hear from Kerry Connor, an agent of the United States Coast Guard. He's going to tell you that simply taking recreational divers so deep underneath the surface of the ocean isn't only a violation of diving industry standards, but of the Coast Guard's recommendation. Now let's talk about that second question. Were those violations what caused his death? Today you're going to learn that if Neptune had ignored warning sign after warning sign that Lee was clearly unfit to dive to the Hepburn, he wouldn't have even been in the water that day. If they hadn't ignored industry standards, he wouldn't have been 170 feet underwater. If they hadn't ignored every recommendation, he wouldn't have died 180 feet under the surface of the ocean, completely alone. Members of the jury, all of this was avoidable. If they hadn't disregarded safety standard after safety standard, warning sign after warning sign, he wouldn't be here. But they did. So at the end of this trial, my colleague, Mr. Donnelly, is going to come before you and ask you to find Neptune liable. Thank you.
Defense, you got a response?
Yes, Your Honor. May it please the court? Your Honor, opposing counsel, members of the jury. They told him the rules. He knew the risks, and the rest was in his hands. Now today, we're going to hear about a tragedy. Our hearts go out to Miss Allen for the loss of her husband, Lee. But the law tells us that we must set aside our emotions and focus on the evidence. The law tells us that if Lee Allen knew the risks involved and knew the rules he broke, that you cannot find Neptune responsible. And today, by preponderance of the evidence, we're going to show that Lee Allen was told the rules and that he knew and understood the risks he took. In order to do that, we're going to call 3 witnesses. Our first witness is Ms. Hayden Hathaway, CEO and founder of Neptune. She's going to tell you about the risks associated with the Hepburn dive, all of which Mr. Allen knew. She's going to tell you that the Hepburn dive is challenging, that it's at a depth of 170 feet, that it's both a technical and a wreck dive. Ms. Hathaway will tell you that after receiving all of this information, Mr. Allen made the decision to go on the Hepburn dive. Ms. Hathaway will also tell you that on the day of the dive, it was Mr. Allen who insisted on having Reggie Rogers as his dive buddy. Ms. Hathaway will tell you how she approached Lee Allen and told him that this was risky, told him that this situation was not ideal. But Mr. Allen insisted on diving anyway. Now, the second witness we're going to call is Dr. Quincy Montgomery, a medical doctor who is an expert in scuba diving related medicine. She's going to tell you that the decisions Mr. Allen made under the water were reckless. She's going to tell you that on the day in question, that Mr. Allen was suffering from nitrogen narcosis, a condition suffered by all scuba divers, which, if not dealt with, can cause serious side effects. She's going to tell you that Mr. Allen was trained on these dangerous side effects, that he knew the risks involved with it. She will tell you, she will tell you that the only way to deal with nitrogen narcosis is to ascend. But Mr. Allen made the decision to descend. Dr. Quincy Montgomery will tell you that it was this decision, the plaintiff's decision, that led to his death. Now, the last witness we're going to call is Reggie Rogers, the dive master who was with Lee Allen on July 7th. He's going to tell you about the rules Mr. Allen refused to follow. He's going to tell you the specific instructions he gave to all of his divers on the path that they were to follow. He told them that they were to go down the anchor line, swim across the Hepburn wreck to the back of the boat, where they would find a fluorescent orange guide line that would guide them through the Hepburn wreck back to the anchor line where they would ascend safely. Specifically, you'll hear Reggie Rogers tell that he told Mr. Allen not to go down to the second level. But Mr. Rogers will come and tell you that that is exactly what Mr. Allen did. Instead of following the short, clearly marked path through the upper level of the deck, Mr. Allen decided to go off that path. He maneuvered himself he carefully maneuvered himself down a narrow staircase and went to that second level. It was there that Mr. Rogers found him. You will hear today how he was unable to save Mr. Allen. Today, you're going to hear about a tragedy, but the law is clear. If Mr. Allen knew about the risks he took and took them anyway, if he knew the rules that he broke, the rules designed to keep him safe, if he took matters into his own hands, you simply cannot find Neptune responsible. So at the close of evidence today, my co-counsel, Ms. Kate Ballou, will come before you and talk to you about the evidence and the law. And she will ask you to find Neptune not liable.